And our next speaker is Rhonda Liebig, who has a new book that's out. She's been promoting heavily. And Rhonda and I actually met for the first time at my Women of Influence San Diego conference. And she is just positive energy and a joy, and she gets people to get up and move around. And Rhonda, thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to turn it over to you. Teach us what you know. You got a half an hour.
All right. Thank you, Tony. So everybody's talking about the step-by-step stuff to do when you are preparing for your book and how to market it. And I'm going to go in a little bit different angle. And I find that this angle is what can stop us from doing things or can catapult us from doing things. And what's interesting, I'm a holistic wellness coach, but what's happened this year has done so many crazy things where I'm working with more authors and speakers, and I have a 2018 tour, and it's called Fresh Inspiration, Professional Talks and Book Signing. So today I'm going to come at being a health coach. I'm going to give you 3 tips today. One of them is going to be that I've been in the industry for about 18 years now. The other 2 that I want to give you is the structure and how to get out there for media. Make sure there's workshops out there for you or build it yourself. And then also some of the mindset tools that you need. So we're going to bring all that together. So I'm going to get a little warm and fuzzy. As Tony said, I like a lot of energy, and usually I'm up dancing and doing stuff. So when I did Women of Influence with Tony, I was up and dancing and had music on, and I brought my little speaker that pushed out to the audience just so I could bring some energy. So why don't we start that right now? Everybody that's live with me, we're going to be talking about this author stuff. We've had a couple of, actually 3 dynamic speakers, and so I just want you to raise your hand, just kind of shake yourself out, take a nice deep breath in, and let's go for it. So my biggest issue about getting out and doing what I love to do was a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And does anybody else feel that way, that sometimes we get so stuck in our head and we truly believe that what we're doing is not important, and what we're doing is maybe something that we believe that somebody really doesn't want to hear from us. But there's the other part that like splits our brain, and we know the reason why we have a business or the reason why we're writing these books is because we do have something that we want to say. It's just the part of lifting up the phone and talking to some people or going out and connecting. So I'm going to give another tip on how to do that. And to connect with people, it truly is that you have to be in a really deep heart-centered space so that you can be open and receive the conversation that you're having with people. So we're going to talk about when you get out there and how you can have these deep, meaningful conversations and learn how to network in a way that's going to help you with connecting with people, that'll help you with getting on to media and different things. Because I think the biggest question that I had for myself, and tell me if this is true for you, is that I was asking all these questions. Well, I know I want to get out in their media because media is a place to really lift that book up and share with people what's in it. I really want to go do those workshops, but how do I do that? Who are the people I need to talk to? And so we'll talk about that. That'll be part of the tips. So this year, my word became yes, Y-E-S. And I was thinking, well, how does this manifest itself to being able to really move out there? First thing is, are you telling yourself no for a lot of things? Like for Tony, he has all these wonderful things that's happening this year. And I found myself saying yes to Tony, like, yes, Tony, I need to do that. I need to go out to San Diego and I need to do. I just started getting out there and really believing in myself more by using the word yes. It's very, very powerful. So what's your word this year? What's something that's going to give you the base and the pillars to really anchor yourself and start manifesting something where you hear a lot of yeses instead of no's, which we hear quite a bit about when we want to go out speaking, you want to do media. So what is your word? That's a really important one. All right, so I'm going to come at this with 3 tips that are going to go deep. And the first tip is connect it with me as a holistic practitioner. And think about your self-care and how that can connect with your mindset. So the first thing is really learning how to get in that mindset where you feel good about yourself. Because I know for me, when I was growing up, I heard a lot of stuff of people that were in my family that weren't very nice, and they called me ugly, they called me dumb, they would say things that were not very nice to me, and for some reason, even after I was out in the corporate world and I passed the CPA exam because I was an accountant, and I started doing these things, I still kept thinking that I was the dumb person or the person that didn't deserve very much. And I realized that there was a lot of limiting stuff and some interpretations that I had of what people were saying when I was younger, and I really had to scrub that clean. So have you ever felt that way? There's something holding you back, but you just don't really know it. So the first tip today is talking about how do you start clearing that and how do you start listening? And so in this quick little area, because we don't have a lot of time today, the tips that I would give you with this one big strategy. And it's all linked with getting yourself out there so that you make money off this book and being able to start your author book sales funnel. When you start your day in the morning, you want to make sure that you're taking care of things that are happening on the inside. When there's things happening where you feel anxiety, where you're feeling you like you are very little and small and you're not ready to really expand and do what you need to do for the day, that could mean that your kidneys are off. So I'll talk to you a little bit holistically so that you can connect with this. As you start drinking your water in the morning, which sometimes we don't have enough water, your brain will actually go into the anxiety mode, and it's something to do chemically what happens when you're dehydrated. So get yourself a big glass of water so that you can start clearing and opening up that body. Next thing is still working in the kidney area and making sure that flow happens for you, is reaching for your toes and stretching and opening your entire body. Now again, we're still connecting with mindset, but we're doing it in a physical way, in a way that helps your body move and unclog, and so that you feel like you really, yeah, I got this. And the third thing is making sure that you're giving yourself time to breathe in a way that's very, very methodical, or you can add meditation. And I use an app called Relax Melodies, and you can put a variety of different sounds in there, from water to wind to ocean, and give yourself time to breathe. And as you do that, it starts settling the mind so that you can have an incredible day. So you saw how the other speakers were talking about the step-by-step. Well, what we're talking about here is how to open yourself up so that you can manage the wonderful stuff that you learned from everybody already and what you're going to be learning for the rest of the day with us. As you do that, it's going to build a stronger, more powerful feeling in you that you can handle the day, because then you can start looking at your task list and the things that you need to do to get out there so that you get your book heard and seen or finish your book. So that's your first tip. And so take that and practice it. And even though it's so basic, I find that this is where people get lost, is that we believe we have to do tons and tons of things for self-care, or we're just not doing enough. So look at the little basic stuff that you can do that makes you feel good. And as you do that, you'll start opening up the body, and your body will start coming together with the mindset and the body together. Makes a very powerful process. The next two tips are related with, I'm going to bring in more of my business sense as a CPA working for corporate, leading people into really being able to make really good decisions for themselves. And also the creator of Fresh Inspiration, Professional Talks and Book Signings. In this area is where you want to start thinking about how you can bring your step one in that we just talked about to building and marketing your book. Before you do that, you have to have people that you want to talk to, that you can talk to, connect with, to be able to get it out there in the media. So now that you're starting to feel better about yourself, meaning that we always have these limiting things, so we're going to break through that by doing the step one. Step two is about getting out there and networking. And this is usually earlier in your space where you're learning how to network, and sometimes we can get to the monkey mind where we start talking about ourselves first, or we're concerned about what somebody's talking about. In the back of our mind, we're saying, oh my gosh, what do I say, what do I say, what do I say, but you haven't heard what the other person said. So with the first step, it gets you in the heart sense of being able to be open and really starting to nurture that area. So as you go out and you start speaking with people, what I have learned a lot over the years, and also working with my clients, is that when you walk into a room, making sure that you've done all your self-care steps so you can walk in and really present yourself as the alignment of what's important to you in your book, and also as a person that's going out there and working to get to as many people as possible with the book. And learning how to be able to manage your process so that you are in the serving mode. And this is the really important area, because sometimes we can get lost and think that we have to be talking about ourselves so people know who we are. Like, when's our next time that we can talk about ourselves? Lots of people have tons of questions for us. But the first thing is going around and just saying hello to people and learning about what they're doing, but doing it in a way so you're listening and being very methodical about learning about what somebody really likes to do. Ask them personal questions about, what kind of fun stuff do they like to do, that's like the reason why they're there for the night, and how does that connect with their lifestyle. And people start opening up because they realize that you're in there for conversation. And what really gets missed in these networking areas is people wanting to talk about, what do you do in business, and then what are you doing that is getting you out there. You start talking business stuff. But the personal connection is where you start learning about that person, getting their card and making sure that you put notes on there what you learned about them, and that you are in that space, that heart center space, that this is not just about you getting out there and leveraging yourself, but it really is, but it's about making the friendships that are going to take you even further than just a one-step thing. I'll give you an example. I was talking with somebody that lives in Arizona, and we were just getting to know each other, and we decided that Fresh Inspiration, which is supporting people that are authors, that we need to get out there and we need to do a workshop over in Arizona. And Lucy and I were talking, and she said, oh my gosh, we need to be working together. This sounds really good. Let's get on another call. And she said, hold on here, Rhonda. Do you want me to give you some people that you can connect with and start doing some more things? And I stood back and I was thinking, actually, no, Lucy, I don't want that yet. I want to make sure that we connect next week, which is only about 7 days that we separate the time from our first discussion. Let's start talking, getting to know each other more, spend an hour together, figure out, how this can work so that I get to know her more. Because sometimes people will give us all these connections, but to keep the relationship going with the person that you're getting to know is making sure that you're picking up the phone after you've met them at a meetup or met them at some other location where you're around other authors or other professionals. And so it's about learning how to build that relationship just like you do in your personal life, and the alignment starts happening. where you are making friendships and deep friendships. I spent a year out, I live here in Sacramento, and I spent a year spending time with people, really getting to know them, making connections. I had no idea where it was going to go, but I realized that I really had a lot of friends. And I noticed as a writer that was getting my book out there, going out and speaking, that I felt very lonely because I was alone quite a bit. So have you ever felt that before? You feel so lonely, and you don't even realize it until all of a sudden you have this big aha and you go, man, I am spending so much time by myself. It feels so good to laugh and enjoy being on the phone talking to people. And all of a sudden what happens is you pick up the phone and it's not a scary feeling anymore. You're calling your friends. Now, how special is that? It took me a little bit to get there, but do you see that? Where step one, so important, so that you can have faith in yourself. So then step two, when you're going out and meeting people, that this is purely about relationships. So what happened for me this year is that I did a book. I kept hearing no, Rhonda, you are, oh, thanks, Daryl. He's saying you must have faith in yourself. Oh, preach it. Oh, Daryl, this is great. Thank you. I kept hearing the word no, this wouldn't be right proper for the group. But when I read through the groups that I was sending my one page out to make sure that I got my book out there, I kept hearing no. And I said, here, wait, my word is yes. So how do I make that happen? So this is it. I started calling up my friends. I put something out there on social media and I said, hey, I have a book and I have a lot of friends that are publishing books this year. So who's on board with me? I'm going to be going to this place and this place. Anybody else, I'll do the leading and I'll say yes to you. And I had in my mind, in my vision, and this is the spiritual holistic process that you can do for yourself. And this is where the fun comes in. You're where the struggle was, and now this becomes fun. I all of a sudden knew that I had some friends that were doing the same thing I was doing. They are so busy in their day-to-day stuff, and they have a book that they want to get out there. Same as me, same as you, I bet, too. And I said, I'm leading this. So what came out of that is the funnel called Fresh Inspiration, Professional Talks, and Book Signing. Now see how creative that came, and it became very organic. It's very hard to create something that people are yearning and want, or that they know that you have something that they are yearning and that they want. So for your book, when you are going out there, instead of just talking about the title or talking about what it's about, start talking. I love, Daryl, how you said, talk about the emotional part. I know that when I was releasing my book, I read so many stories about people going through the process of my 14 days to a flat belly, which was my book this year. And they were telling me stories about how terrible they felt and how awkward they felt actually about the title at first, because they were like, boy, this is high expectation. But that title is, I bet when you go out there and you figure out your title, make it something that's powerful, that feels like it almost feels like it can't be accomplished, but you go, try it. Check it out. See what results you're going to get. Give me 14 days. If you mess up, go right back on schedule. See what happens. And so when I was able to go out there and speak my book, all of a sudden it became about this emotional process. And I started learning that my dad was on my shoulder as I was writing this book. And I started crying. And this is why this is important, is that everything in my world now is about connecting with people, picking up the phone, talking about the emotional side of what's important about this book, or the emotional side of why fresh inspiration is very important to support people to get that book out there, because we all have something and an emotion of why our book is very important. Now, what can get us in the monkey mind is that we are on the exterior and we start talking about like what our book is about, and we don't get in that heart center, and people can be turned off, and we're like, how does that happen? Like, that people are getting great results. So think about the steps I was talking about. I've gone to 2, but think about that, and how the journey going into getting your book out there is actually a very deep emotional journey. So you have all the steps that we heard about earlier, we're going to hear about later, but think about scrubbing yourself clean, I call it, just scrubbing yourself clean so that you can really get into it. Now, the next thing is, okay, I want to be in media, I want to do workshop, and I want to do these things to get my book out there so I can share. So this is the third one. Now that you've met many people and you've been doing different things to help them and support them, I've even spent time doing a 3-day workshop supporting somebody else. I didn't get anything else from it, but I really did, because I got some great friendships through that. But I spent time helping people do different things depending on my expertise. So I picked up the phone and I said, oh, to my friend Simone, well, guess what? I am ready to go out and do media. I want to get on Good Day, and I also want to do Fox News. Simone, I know you're in that area. Who are some of the people I should be talking to? And I have helped her, and we've connected. And she said, all right, you need to go to this place and this place. This is the person you need to connect with. And all of a sudden, that flow just started happening. And there was no feeling of that I was just taking and taking, because I built and nurtured that relationship. And sometimes it doesn't take very long. It took me a year, and it just keeps going and going and growing. But the more that you step into taking care of everything from why you are an author and the steps that you need to do for yourself to make sure that you keep that heart center open, that's where the power comes in. And that's where the strength and the feeling that you are unstoppable, energetic, that you're having fun, that you feel the freedom, that you're ready to play. And this is where the big fun starts happening. And you see that build. We started off with like, oh, how are we going to get our day going? Well, Rhonda, it sounds kind of boring. And then we built it up to like getting to know people, picking up the phone that seems scary, to the third part of, okay, now I'm out in the media. So I've done media. I've done workshops. I do workshops on my 5-acre ranch, and I pick up the phone and I call people. Are you ready to pick up the phone, call people, nurture your relationships, get that book out there that you know is incredible, that there's a reason and a purpose? And Daryl talked about there's an emotional reason why you wrote that book, or that you're writing that book, or you're sitting on that book and that you are not releasing it. I did not release my book. It took 3 years. I did not know my dad was on my shoulder because my dad died of diabetes. And I felt like I was always there for him, and he passed away, and I had an emotional process I had to deal with, that my dad left, and I'm a health coach. And there are some things I wish he would have stepped into. So the book is about that. What is your book about? So anyway, with that being said, those are your 3 tips. And I want you to think about how courage really drives so much, and how you can build before to find that courage. And then from that courage, you can push out and magnify and do what you want to do. My special gift that I have for you is, if you are an author, going to be an author, if you've had a book for a while and you've been working on getting out there, I want to invite you in to have a conversation with me, fill out a basic form so I know where you're at. We can talk about hearing your yes. We'll lift the stage for you, and we'll make sure that we have a book signing for you. And then there's a 2018 tour we're putting together, and it's fabulous. So I'll make sure that I put it in our little chat box. But you want to go to, my name is Rhonda Liebig, and it looks like Liebig, by the way, but it's German. So RHONDA, Liebig, LIEB as in boy, IG.com/fresh inspiration. If you go to that page, you'll learn more. You'll see the tour. You'll see the workshops that are available. You'll see a form that you can fill out, and you can keep in touch with us. Thank you.
Okay, Rhonda, wonderful, wonderful tips. An entirely different approach, which I love, and and so thank you for that. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask away. Daryl says that you rock.
Daryl, you were fun. I was watching your comments come through. I so appreciate that. Yeah, Tony,
Rhonda,
that's kind of a different approach, huh? I'm sorry.
this is Inez. I love the way you started with the morning and how important it is to really give ourselves water and take care of our kidneys. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Inez. I appreciate that. I had to come in somehow as a health coach, didn't I?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, health.
Yeah. Health and author, what does that mean?
That's good, and that's why I love doing these. It's because you kind of know what the speakers are going to talk about, but then you're always surprised because they take an entirely different approach than maybe you were prepared for. So I love the fact that you sort of came in and it was more from a take care of yourself, take care of mind, body, spirit, and that way it sort of makes you a better writer. So I really appreciate that. Anyone else with comments or questions? Hi, Cindy.
Hi. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Hi, Cindy.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you, Rhonda, for the great presentation. So I do have a question for you. I was trying to work on my books, but I just realized, sometimes the topics will change. It's like, 10 days ago, I want to write something about relationships, and then 20 days later, I want to, maybe I'm good at social and how to make connections with others. So what would be your suggestion on, one or two? I'm not sure. It's like one day I wanted to write one, and then the next day I want to try another topic. So
yeah, and what's interesting, Cindy, is I'm going to go through the health coaching window here. Is that what's really cool is it sounds like you have a lot of things that are really on your mind. So there may be two things that you want to work on. So your morning, give yourself time to settle the brain, kind of get out of the frontal lobe where your mind will take off, and then it won't stop for the day, and you'll have different things, because it sounds like you have incredible things going on, but it can confuse and collide. So as you're meditating, try and clear yourself as much as you can, settle the dust, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our frontal lobe, and allow things to come from the back of the mind, and you'll have a deeper, grounded process to pull those two layers out, or more things that are happening. And sometimes it's also the trust in yourself to make sure that you are aware of that you may be feeling uncomfortable about certain things. Listen to yourself, get it all written down, or get a video so you can video or audio yourself so that you can clear up some things, and you'll be on fire. It sounds like you have some awesome things going on.
And I've got a slightly different approach. Cindy, here's what I would do, and this is what I kind of tell my students to do. I want you to write down, take the 2 topics that you have or 3 topics that you have, and what I want you to do is I want you to write your top 30 tips for each of them. Now, the reason why I want you to do that is because the topic where you have the most tips is the book you should work on, okay? Because that will sort of that will help you sort of fine tune and zero in on what's going to be most effective, what's going to resonate with people. You can come up with 30 tips really easily, because I'm the same way. I'll get, I want to work on this and I want to work on that, da, 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 da. And then I say, okay, slow down. Take the topic, and what I actually do is I will write an article, right, with those 30 tips. So I'm doing a couple of things. Number one, I'm essentially writing a chapter, and number two, I'm seeing whether or not this is something that I can write about and turn it into a book. And here's another key for those speakers out there. This is how I determine what workshop I'm going to teach. Because if I can come up with at least 25 to 30 tips easily, and that's the key, then I know I've got something that I can turn into a workshop, and I can generate revenue from that, and I can turn it into a book as well.
Right.
Was that helpful?
Oh, very helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, it happened. I have like, one topic, I have 3 or 4 chapters or topics written down. Another one will be, 2 or 3 or even 10. So yeah, you're right. They vary.
Absolutely. So anyone, and I'm glad that was helpful. Anyone else have any tips or questions? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. So in that case,
I'm so sorry. Can I add on something? You mentioned about the workshop. So you would say that it's the same tips in terms of having your own workshops as well, right?
yeah,
Because it happened to me as well.
Yeah, because if you can take those 25 to 30 tips, it doesn't have to be 25, but it should be at least minimum 25. If you can turn those into really good tips, useful tips where you're not repeating yourself, and then what I do is I expound upon those tips. So I'll say, tip number 1, telemarketing 101, pick up the phone. Tip number 2, call reluctance, right? And then I will go back and I will expound on those 2 tips. And then that way you've got not only an article, but you've got the basis for a book, but you also have the basis for a workshop as well. So it sort of covers all bases.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Tony.
My pleasure. Anyone else? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. So here's Rhonda. Those were excellent tips.
Thank you.
And I'm going to